welcome to episode 159 of the Craft House Magic podcast. My name's Ellie and I'm coming to you from Norwich in Norfolk, and today is the 1st of April. So welcome everybody, I hope you've all had a lovely crafty week since the last time I've spoken to you, and I'm here to share all the things that I've been making in the last 7 days. So today I have some knitting, some sewing, which includes some English paper piecing and embroidery. I have a little bit of spinning, a little bit of confessions. And one question from the Ask Me Anything thread. I do have a few to answer, but I'm just going to do one this week because I'm in a bit of a rush. I want to get everything finished and posted out before today because I'm going to have a couple of days off for this long weekend for Easter. So now I've just got a little bit of information on my shop at the end of the podcast. So you can find me on Instagram, Ravelry and Facebook as Craft House Magic, and I have my own website, crafthousemagik.co.uk, where you can find my hand-dyed yarns, handmade project bags, stitch markers, HiyaHiya knitting needles and crochet hooks, Clover crochet hooks and bag making supplies. So we have the Craft 20 a Day make-along going on in the Ravelry group and on Instagram as well. You can use the hashtag Craft 20 a Day, and we're basically just chipping away at those bigger projects, or those projects that you've been working on for a long time and you want to get finished. It can be anything you've been working on for a long time already. So if you've already done like 50%, 60%, that's absolutely fine. Come and join us either in the Ravelry group and on Instagram as well. So today I'm also starting the Spring Shawl Along. So there'll be a thread in the Ravelry group called the Spring Shawl Along 2021, but you can also use the hashtag CHM Spring Shawl Along 2021 on Instagram to tag your posts there. So it can be any shawl or scarf or pattern that you can wear as like a shawl or scarf type thing. So anything that's within that sort of remit, absolutely fine. And it can be sort of any craft. If you're doing sort of needle lace, if you're knitting, if you're crocheting or anything like that, I'd love to see what you're making. So I haven't started mine yet, so hopefully over the weekend I can cast a lovely shawl on and share with you next week how I'm getting on with mine. So let's get on with the knitting, shall we? First of all, I have a finished object to show you that I knitted, and these, I don't actually have them, but I did take some footage a couple of days ago when I posted them to my friend. So I've knitted my friend Liz a pair of socks because she needed a bit of cheering up, so I sent her some hand knitted socks. So I knitted them in Dragon Hill Studio, and I bought this yarn a few weeks ago at the Knitty Retreat, and it is that's what it looks like in the cake, and it's the Chepstow sock, which is I think it's 75% blue face Leicester and nylon, and the colourway is called Scintilla 2. So that's what I've cast on and finished for my friend Liz, and I used this colourway, which is called Hundreds and Thousands, as the contrast, and it is actually the same colourway that coordinates really well with one of the stripes in here. And I love how they turned out, and I'm going to pop a video in here of how they turned out. I put them on my coffee table after I give them a block, and I've posted them now to my friend Liz, so I hope she really likes them. So the pattern I used was basically a cross between my simple top-down sock pattern, but I also used a German short row heel that I show in my toe-up sock video tutorials, and I'll post links to those down below. So I started from the top down, so I did some 2x2 rib. I think I did about 12 rows, and then I just did a straight knitted sock because it comes out in a lovely stripe, and then I've done the heel, German short row heel, in the contrast yarn, and then went back to the stripy yarn for the foot, and then I used the contrast yarn for the toe as well. And they were nice, easy, quick make, because you can't really use a sort of patterned sock for some gorgeous self-striping yarn. I think it just speaks for itself if you've just got a nice plain pattern. So there we go, they've gone off to my friend Liz now, so I hope she likes them. And the next thing I have to show you is also a finished object, but it is a finished object that Liz has knitted, and it's actually a garment that she's knitted for herself. So Barbara is going to help me to show you it on her while I'm chatting to you about it, but then after I've recorded the main part of the podcast, I'm going to pop round to Liz's, my mother-in-law's, and get her to try it on and give us a twirl in the front garden. So that should be fun. Hopefully it fits her really nicely. So Barbara, would you like to pop over? So thank you very much, Barbara. So Barbara is wearing the Breezy cardigan by Hannah Fetig, and I actually have the pattern book for this particular cardigan in my stash already. There are a few other cardigan patterns in the book, including the featherweight cardigan, so I ended up picking up from eBay, I think, second hand a couple of years ago, but it's been handy because it's got this pattern in it as well. So this is a 4-ply weight cardigan, and it's got this drapey side panel on both sides, which is nice, like a waterfall effect. It's got 2x2 rib all the way around the neck, all the way around the bottom, and also around the cuffs. And it's knitted in my own hand-dyed yarn. So I got Liz to choose a colourway from my website, and she picked Mr. Blue Skies, which is like a pale blue. And because it's hand-dyed and a tonal, I got her to alternate the skeins, and you can see how it's knitted up nicely. She actually just used one skein. She didn't alternate skeins for the ribbed sections, and I don't think you could really tell anyway. But I'd advise for anybody using hand-dyed yarn for a garment to alternate the skeins for the main body of the cardigan at least. So the back of the cardigan is a straight back, like so, and it is knitted from the top. Oops, Barbara's fallen into the plant. It's knitted from the top down, and obviously it's not in the round because it's a cardigan. It's knitted backwards and forwards. But Liz said it was quite an easy knit and the pattern was quite easy to follow. And there we go, really. So I'm going to take this after I've recorded the rest of the podcast and pop a section of Liz wearing it so she can tell us how it fits. So I got Liz to do a gauge swatch, and I got the on gauge measurements, so I picked the size that was about 1 inch of positive ease, so you'll be able to see what it looks like on Liz. So before we go off the knitting section, I thought that I'd mention that I'm wearing my V-back tee that I showed you on last week's podcast, and I've actually put it on with a little tiny vest top underneath because I think it looks better when there's a t-shirt material just between the busts, so that the decrease or the increase line doesn't fall between the boobs, if that makes sense. I think it looks better like that. And I am going to quickly change it around so that you can see what it looks like the other way round, the way that it was intended, because it was supposed to be the V-back tee after all. However, because I've made some modifications to the short rows, making the front of the body longer than the back when the V is at the front, it will look slightly strange when I've switched it around, but I will show you what it looks like. So there we are, that is what it looks like with the V actually at the back. You can see that it is quite a bit longer, and that is actually, when I've got it the other way around, that is pretty straight because that extra length goes over my bust area. But I don't mind it actually with it longer at the back. Goes over the bum a bit more, but I do prefer the look of the V-neck on me, I think. But there we go, ta-da! So I have some sewing to show you next. I have been working on this ages ago, and I just put it down and completely forgot about it, and I've picked it up again. So this is going to be the Hexagon box by Emma from Vintage Sewing Box, and previously I'd made a bunch of little hexagons there to go on the front of the box panels. Now I have created, you actually cut these out of foam, the side panels and also the base, and then I've covered them in some linen ready to go. And one of them I've started to do some sort of decorative embroidery. So I added the hexagons on there, and I've stitched that by hand onto the panel, and then I've started to do some free embroidery around the edge. I haven't quite finished it yet though. There's some more of the pink flowers that I need to add to the top of the wreath, and then I might add a few more colours as well, but not too much. And then I was thinking of adding something around the little hexagon, just some little details, just small little details around the edge, just to balance it out a bit. So there is 6 panels all the way around the box like this, I don't think I'm going to do embroidery on every single one because I think it might be over the top, but I'll probably do it on 3 like this and then alternate the ones that's just got the little hexagons on, which I think will look nice. But that's lots of fun. I just picked some random threads that I've got in my stash in my little thread box. I think they're just normal DMC ones. I picked a green to start the wreath and the leaves, a purple to do some little French knots, and then I've done some lazy daisies in the darker pink as well as some French knots. The leaves are stitched in like a satin stitch leaf shape, but all I did was basically I had a roll of masking tape and I used that to draw a line for where I was going to do the wreath around the outside, and then I've just sort of made it up as I was going along. But there we go, that's how I'm getting on with that so far. So I've got all my pieces, I've got to do that, line it as well, and then I'm nearly there. But it'll be really nice to have a little place to keep everything to do with my English paper piecing. I've already used a couple of other patterns, including actually this little needle book that I use for my machine needles, and I've got several of these little books that I've made from Emma's pattern, and they're really handy to keep your needles in. So I've got this one for my machine needles, but then I've got other ones for my sort of hand stitching needles as well. Always handy to have a little needle book. What I've used inside these hexagons, as Emma suggests, is these little Hexiforms, and I will leave a link to where I get the little Hexiforms from in the description box down below as well. So there we go. So that is my sewing section, and I do have a little bit of spinning to show you this week. So a couple of weeks ago I showed you that I'd been doing a little bit of spinning every day on my sort of 20 minutes a day, and I'd switched to spinning for a bit. I've actually plied it up. So this is a 2-ply yarn, and this was made from some fibre that I bought from John Arbon textiles, and I think that it's a merino. I'm not 100% sure, to be honest, because I've got a big massive box full of lovely fibrey goodness that isn't labelled, but it was fun to spin, so who cares. It has got multiple colours in this actually, but it does read as a sort of a grey colour, but if you do look really closely you can see those blues and purples in there as well. So it has got multiple colours in there. When I was spinning it I could see all the yellows and pinks and blues in there, but it does read as a sort of a browny grey colour I think from a distance, which is kind of good because it's not too in your face, it's like subtle rainbow. So there we go. I did measure the thickness of it and it is about a sport weight, which was what I was sort of going for. And I was just enjoying doing spinning without having to concentrate too much, so that was what I'm trying to do lately, is just get a nice relatively accurate spin with a nice balanced yarn, but also have fun doing it. That's the most important thing. So I'm planning on making a hat with this I think, but I'm not sure which pattern yet. I'm going to have a look over the weekend, and I've got plenty of extra making time. And linking in to my spinning section, I have some confessions. So I've wanted one of these for ages. I don't know why I didn't buy one, and I'm sure I actually went on to the website to buy one previous to now, a couple of years ago, and I don't know why I didn't buy it. This is a gauge which helps you sort of gauge the thickness of your yarn once it's plied, and this one is made by Hilltop Cloud, and they do a wooden version like what I've got, but they also do a perspex version as well. So it's just plain on the other side, and then it's got measurements burnt into the side about how many wraps per inch. And then there's a little table here which tells you which sort of range of thickness of yarn is, like 4-ply or sport or DK, etc. So I thought that would be handy. And also there's an inch measurement here and on the bottom, so you could wrap your yarn around several times to get a more accurate measure of the thickness. This is just a sort of ballpark quick glance look at how thick the yarn is. You've got like an average of quite a length of yarn, so that you take into account the irregularities in the hand spun yarn. But I do recommend getting one of these. They're from Hilltop Cloud, and I think they're only about £6, so goodness knows why I didn't pick one up before, because it's handy just to have next to the spinning wheel while you're using it. So we're on to the Ask Me Anything section now. Now I do have about 7 questions already on my list to answer, but I'm just going to do one today because I'm in a bit of a rush today. I've got lots of things I need to do because I want to have a couple of days off at the weekend. So I want to answer just this one, and someone was asking me and I can't remember what the person's name was. I've just noted the question down, so I'm sorry about that, but hopefully this will be helpful. They were asking, how do I fold my hand knitted socks in my drawer, even the ones with a heel flap and gusset? So all of my socks I tend to fold like this and then fold them over again and have them stacked in my drawer, well, with the two together, so the pair is together like this, so that they're all folded next to each other. So in order to do this, I tend to sort of fold, that's the front of the foot, and I fold it flat down and then spread the heel flap out, if that makes sense. So with the ones where you're doing an afterthought heel, or the short row heels, it's much easier to fold like this, but actually with the heel flap and gusset ones, so if I just open that up, you can see that it's a heel flap and gusset. You can flatten it out and make it as neat as you can. And then I'd lay 2 of those socks like that together. So hopefully that makes sense. So last of all, I'm just going to tell you a bit of information about my shop update. Well, I've not got a proper shop update this week, but I just wanted to mention that the yarn clubs will be available all over this weekend. So on the website it says that they'll be available until the 2nd of April, but actually I'm just going to leave them up until the end of Monday, and then I'll take them down. So if you want to buy one of the April clubs, which will be shipped on the 16th of April, please make sure that you order them before that date, because I won't be selling any more after that time. So thank you so much for watching. Don't forget to like and subscribe if you'd like to see more, and I shall see you in the next episode. Bye!